When I'm not picking the worst possible week to announce my own retirement from professional football, I like to answer questions and comments that I get on YouTube, so let's get to it. Please stop with the swallow tongue smacking sound every time you pause. Forget it, I give up. So we all know the number one reason that beginners quit playing guitar is because they're watching a YouTube video where someone's mouth made a noise. But after that, it's a little more complicated, right? I've been teaching professional private guitar lessons for like 10 years, so I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of why a lot of beginners get frustrated with it and what causes them to maybe give up, right? Everybody learns differently, so some people respond to different methods of teaching. That's why it's kind of hard to say, like, well, what's the one reason? What's the one thing that you can do to stay interested with the guitar? But I think a lot of it is because when they're first starting out playing, everything they're playing doesn't really sound like a song. So one thing that I found that has resonated with a lot of students who maybe took lessons before and quit with a different instructor was to just find the quickest way to get them playing a song, right? Now, a lot of people will be like, okay, well, yeah, just pick easy song. And when people think of easy songs, they think of like, oh, maybe the Beatles. The Beatles have easy songs, right? Like Let It Be is just C to G to A minor F, C, G, F, walk it down. And it's like, is that easy? Like, that's not easy at all for a beginner because you have to start with the chords, make a C chord, make a G chord, and I think we take for granted how hard that is to move entire chords around. And it's like, well, that's just a great way to frustrate beginners because everyone is telling them that's an easy song, when in reality, if you're just starting, what is more difficult than like having to take these new hand shapes and try to like move them around in time? So one thing that I always do is like, all right, let's find a song that you like. First of all, a good teacher should be able to adequately transition to maybe songs that they don't generally teach, just to find something that a student is going to be super interested in. Because a lot of times they're like, oh, let's learn riffs, right? Because riffs are always fun. A lot of times they're easy because they're all single notes most of the time, and you can get, playing them right away, no matter what it is. Even if a student doesn't like that song, it'll be cool because, all right, there's some progress here. I'm playing single note riffs and it sounds good. Even if I'm not a huge Smoke on the Water fan, I can recognize that as being the song. Therefore, it is progress and I'm happy with it. But what ends up happening is you just end up having a collection of riffs that you run through and you never play any full songs, right? A lot of people probably watching this video have been, or maybe you are stuck in that standpoint. So what I think is the best way to stop worrying about that and kind of get into the spot where like, all right, you're taking the fun of learning riffs, but also being more engaged with the instrument, is learning full songs, whatever it is that you like, in a way where you're tracking root notes to play along with the entirety of a song, okay? So let's use that same Beatles song, Let It Be, just an example for what I'm talking about. Instead of going C major, G major, A minor, G, F major, just start by tracking the root notes. 3rd fret A string, 3rd fret E string, 5th fret, and then just play the root notes, and then maybe if you want to have the, right? No matter who you play that to, you'll recognize that as the song Let It Be, if you have enough, kind of time to listen to it. And that's why I think, more so than learning your chord shapes right away, it's always good to learn chords right away for sure, but instead of spending all your time working on chord shapes or running scales, however you want to do it, is to really memorize the names of the notes on the low E string and the A string, first 7 frets. Okay, so what I mean by that is like, all right, E, open is the E, 1st fret is the F, 2nd fret F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, stop there, the A string, open A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, okay? Memorize that if you don't want to like work on scales and stuff. Now again, the caveat, some people really respond well to learning scales, learning chord shapes, and that kind of gets them in right away. But if that's you as a person, then you don't have a problem with this because you haven't quit guitar and you found a method or a methodology that works well for you, that keeps you excited and engaged with the instrument, keeps you going, right? The reason that I think it's super important to learn those is because you've learned the root note of any chord that you'll ever come across by learning, 7 frets on 2 strings, okay? Because we cover every single one of the notes A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, right? We cover all of them in those two spots. And then when you look at a chord chart, you can just forget if it's major or minor and then just play the root note, okay? So again, regardless of if it's A major or A minor, when you go C to G, A minor or A, doesn't matter, G, F, C, G, and then you can either do the riff at the end or F back to C, okay? This will work with absolutely any song, regardless of what your skill level is on. Even like progressive metal can be broken down into chords, and you can look up a chord chart if it's anything popular, and there's gonna be, you know, maybe with something with lyrics or just a chord progression, where it's like, okay, G, B flat minor, D sharp, minor 7 flat 5. You can just play that as a D sharp. So as a quick example, let's just do something that I consider is a fairly difficult chord progression. Knights of Sidonia by Muse. It kind of starts off with a riff where it's like... Okay, and that's just kind of like a real cheap power chord version of it. But then the actual chord progression is kind of crazy. It's like E minor to G to C, back to G, B major to C, E flat major, G, C minor, then G, A flat, E flat, G, A flat, E flat, G, C minor, right? And that's just like one part of it. So that's like, I would consider that at least an intermediate chord progression. I was having a hard time remembering it just as I was playing it and trying to like say the names of it going along. But you can play the root notes pretty easily, right? E, F sharp, G, G, A, B. And I never have to go past the 7th fret on the guitar. If you're a beginner, you can play open 2, 3, 3, 5, 7, and then get into the chord progression where it's like E, G, C, G, B, C, D sharp, G, C minor, G, G sharp or A flat, then E flat or D sharp, whatever you want to say, G, G sharp, D sharp, G, C, right? And just like there, you could play along with the song and just track root notes, and eventually all the intervals and stuff will kind of, you know, coalesce into your ear, into your mind. Your fingers will start being able to move across the fretboard. When you want to get into more, you know, easy stuff like chords, you'll be ready for it. And then I think the next step from there is to turn all those single notes into power chords, because that almost always works to make it sound better too, right? Instead of going open 2, 3, 3, 5, 7, you could go an E power chord, an F sharp power chord, and a G power chord, and then a G, A, B, and then you can do the same thing. E minor, and again, it's just a power chord, G, C, G, B, C, E flat, right? And then you can start taking those single notes, turn them into power chords. You're progressing your way through a song. You're actually learning structure and songwriting, and that's really kind of why people want to learn guitar in the first place, right? Like, you never, if you're like, oh, why did you get into guitar? You will never hear anybody be like, I just wanted to, you know, play pentatonic licks over a backing track. That was my goal the whole time. Just ripping blues licks over a backing track. And then I was able to do that with one scale shape. It's like, yeah, that's not really generally it. By the way, rocking the Martin Streetmaster today. And the sweatshirt swag, because I like to keep it a common theme as to not distract from the lesson at hand. But yeah, I just think that's the reason that beginners quit, is because it takes them a while to learn how to play a song, right? And they're bombarded with this idea that like, oh, the Beatles music is easy, which is like, I get where that sentiment is coming from, but for an absolute beginner, like, no, it's not, right? It's a combination of why riffs are so popular to begin with, because, you know, like, great, that's essentially somewhat easy. A beginner can wrap their head around kind of playing those quickly. But it's almost like, I think it's kind of dumb to say like a simple song is an easy song, because again, the simplicity has nothing to do with how good a song is. So stop telling people that these songs are easy, and then just kind of talk about how important root notes are, and then eventually you can kind of get into the intricacies of what makes a minor chord, a major chord, a minor 7 chord, a major 7, dominant 7. All that stuff is so much easier to handle once you have the framework of just being able to track root notes around just on the E or the A string. That's what's so cool about guitar, is usually we root chords on those 2 lower strings. And, you know, I think you'll find that if you take that approach and play along with music that you love, then you'll probably stick with the instrument longer. Thanks, I showed my wife this video, and now my guitar collection problem doesn't seem so bad compared to your problem. So this was a comment on my guitar collection tour, which, yeah, maybe a little ridiculous, as it says in the title. So feel free to share that video with your spouse if you're interested in getting more guitars, because you've got probably a long way to go to catch up with all the stuff that is in this room. A bit arrogant and messy teaching, some useful. I guess this counts as a salty blues comment of the week, even though it was only 2/3 salty. At least I found part of it useful. A bit arrogant. I can do better than that. In fact, that is my challenge, to make my videos as arrogant as possible, so stay tuned. All right, for listening homework, I'm going to throw you to one of the tracks off the upcoming Big Thief album. One of my favorite bands out there. I just did the tongue smack thing that I've been self-conscious about now from the first guy. Maybe I need to work on that. But yeah, check out Big Thief, really cool. Check out the Martin Streetmaster, affiliate link in the description. Definitely a really cool guitar. Like I've said before, the best smelling guitar in the entire arsenal. I'm so glad because I can smell it again. If you missed the quarantine vlog where I lost my smell when I got COVID, this is how I found out that I couldn't smell anything. But gladly, I can smell this again. So I feel like I'm in the clear now. So definitely check out Big Thief. And if you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website. I'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks a lot.